Shalom everyone, I hope you are well. This week's Parsha is Parashat Chayei. The Parsha starts off with the marriage of Rivka and Yitzchak, the first marriage that's talked about in the Torah. And the Torah specifically says that first Yitzchak marries Rivka, and then he loves her. Then Ahava, then he has Ahava for her, then he loves her. And this is the first time that we have the word Ahava, the word love, in the Torah as well. And I think there's a very powerful message that the Torah is teaching us about the essence of love. We live in a society that looks at love as something very passive, something that happens to you, something that's just, you're struck by the Cupid, that you fell in love. But in reality, this is really very far from the truth. Because, as I say often in my classes, you cannot fall in love. You can, God forbid, fall down the stairs, but you can't fall in love. Love is something that comes from you. It's not something that comes to you. True love is something that comes, as with the root of the word ahava hints to us, have. It comes from the letters hey bet, which is to give. True love comes when you give to another person and you come to have that closeness and connection with them. And I believe what the message here is that the greatest love that a couple can have is not the love that happens before the wedding, but is the love that happens throughout the relationship, throughout their daily life, as they get closer to each other, understand each other more, and grow together. That is the true greatest love. It's interesting that in Bereshis, when we talk about the most intimate relationship between a husband and wife, the Torah refers to that intimacy as Adam yada es Chava, Adam knew Chava. And it's interesting that it uses that word yada, yediyah, to know. Because when you get to know another person, that is the greatest act of giving, when you care about another person, to really get to know them in the most intimate and greatest way. And I think that when we look at other places in the Torah that talk about love, we have the mitzvah, ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha, that you should love Hashem, b'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha, b'chol me'odecha, with your heart, with your possessions, with your entire body. You should love Hashem, so much so that you would give up your life for Hashem, for God. And the obvious question is, how does Hashem command us to have an emotion? How is that possible? But I think if you look deeper, look at the next word of the Shema. It says, "V'hayu advarim ha'ela shanochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha." Put these words that I've given you on your heart. V'shinanten lefanecha, and teach them to your children. V'dibarta b'hem, and walk with them. Make them part of your life. And I think the message is that if you will live your life with these values, if you live your life in this way, then you will be able to be in a state of ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha, that you will feel that connection to Hashem. But ultimately, it's the giving. It's the giving of yourself and connecting yourself to something beyond yourself that allows you to have that feeling of love of ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha. Similarly, when we have the mitzvah of ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love your neighbor like you love yourself. And there's same question. How do you love your neighbor? What's the commandment to love someone else? And I think the idea is as well, it's an action. It's an action. Care about that person the way you'd want someone to care about yourself. And in essence, there's even another message. Care about yourself. Love yourself. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself as well, because if you don't take care of yourself, you won't be able to take care of another person. But these are actions. But ultimately, that action leads to that feeling of connection, that true love, that's the goal of that connection. Right before we say the Shema in the morning, we say Ava Rabba. We say there's a great love that Hashem has for us. Ava Rabba, Hashem loves us tremendously. And then we say in the middle of that prayer, we say V'yache levavenu le'ava u'liyira Hashemecha, that Hashem should connect our heart to be able to love. So we're basically asking Hashem, we're asking God, connect my heart, unify my heart in my connection with you, and therefore I will be able to have this tremendous love and connection, be able to love you back the way you love us. This week, we lost a great rabbi and Jewish leader, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. And when I think about Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, and I've personally benefited tremendously from his classes, from his sincerity, from his care, from his love for the Jewish people, when I think about Rabbi Sachs, I think about a tremendous love of Torah, a tremendous love of the Jewish people, and a tremendous love of Hashem. And in essence, even beyond that, beyond his love for the Jewish people, a love for all humanity. He was a person who made such a Kiddush Hashem, such a tremendous sanctification of Hashem's name through his classes, through his lectures, through his books. And when I looked at his background and where he came from, one of the speakers, for example, at his levaya, at his funeral, said that he was a very quiet person when he was younger. He was very quiet. You wouldn't even think of him as being an orator and a person who was so passionate and so devoted to what he was about. And I think that the way he became who he was through his actions, through caring about Jews, through learning of Torah, through putting the Torah al levavecha, through putting people al levavecha on his heart. And the more he cared for others, the more he cared for people, the more he felt their plight and their situations and their pain, he became more in love, so to speak, with the Jewish people, more in love with Torah, more in love with Hashem, more in love with all humanity. And I think that's the essence of how he became who he was. And I believe we can live on his legacy, and this really the message of this parsha and the message of what true love is about, by taking actions, by not waiting to have the feeling, but doing the action of love. And the action of love is putting the Torah on our heart, caring about others a little bit more, expanding ourselves to give more to others. And through this, we are able to come to the greatest love and connection that Hashem wants us to have for each other, for Hashem, and for our spouses, and for all of Klal Yisrael. Shabbos, everyone.